What is the difference between monolingual and bilingual language acquisition? Monolingual language acquisition refers to the process by which a child learns one language. This typically occurs when the child is raised in a single language environment, such as family or community where only one language is spoken. Bilingual language acquisition refers to the process by which a child learns two or more languages. This can occur in several different ways, such as a child is raised in a multilingual environment. In certain countries, that is normal, or when the child is exposed to two languages simultaneously or in the specific order. So that's a family, maybe circumstances. The difference between monolingual and bilingual language acquisition lies in exposure to multiple languages, the learning process, how they learn languages, and the way the languages are processed in the brain. Bilingual children tend to switch between languages more frequently and may mix two languages in their speech. They may also develop a preference for one of the languages over another one. Monolingual children, on the other hand, have a more straightforward learning experience, as they are only exposed to one language, and their language skills tend to develop more consistently and at a faster pace. So why do we apply monolingual scaffolding language techniques when the child simultaneously acquires several languages, right? Why do I use and offer you to use the SLP scaffolding techniques? Because monolingual scaffolding language techniques refer to the teaching strategies that support the development of the language skills in the single language, typically the dominant language in the child's environment. Although those techniques are typically used in monolingual language development, they can be also applied to bilingual language acquisition in certain circumstances. For instance, let me explain. So we have only one brain and one region in the brain that is responsible for language processing, right? No, that we actually have two of them. One is responsible for language processing and another one is responsible for language production, but they are located in the same area of the brain. Therefore, whether it's one language or two languages, the child passes through exactly the same stages all the time. Children acquire language at from age 0 to 5. And whether it's one language or several languages, they go through exactly the same stages. They first listen, then they start babble, then they start producing individual words, then they start combining those words into short word combinations, and then the word combinations go longer, and they start building ungrammatical sentences, and by the age of 5, you can find your child producing grammatical sentences. So they become native speakers by age of 5. What happens is, whether it's one language or two languages, they go over exactly the same stages. There is no difference. So they are going to produce words and words combinations in both of the languages at the same time, because that's the nature of every child. They do exactly the same thing at exactly the same time. Language scaffolding techniques were developed to help monolingual children, of course, to develop their language skills, but they are also applicable to the second language. Because if this child is in the same stage, let's say one word stage, two word stage, or multiple word stage, they are like the approach and technique how to help them to develop language and is exactly the same, whether it's one or several languages. And the reason for this is that a simultaneous acquisition of multiple languages can be challenging for young children, and scaffolding techniques can help simplify the language input and make it more accessible for them. For example, in bilingual language acquisition scenario, the teacher may use monolingual scaffolding techniques to support the development of the dominant language, while also exposing the child to a second language. This can help the child develop strong foundation of both languages and ensure that they have a strong understanding of language structures, vocabulary, and grammar of each language. Additionally, in some cases, a parent may use monolingual scaffolding techniques to support the development of minority language. This is especially important in situations where the minority language is under the threat of being lost or needs to be revitalized. Monolingual scaffolding techniques can help children who are acquiring this language to develop a strong foundation in it and ensure that the language is passed on to future generations. In summary, monolingual scaffolding language technique can be applied to bilingual language acquisition in order to support the development of individual languages at the same time and ensure that the child has a strong foundation in each of the languages. Because, as I mentioned earlier, the child passes through exactly the same stages, whether it's one language or several languages. That's why we use SLP scaffolding techniques for bilingual kids, because they have awesome strategies that help kids to develop a second and third language.